Hey guys, I know most of you heard about the large lawsuit settlement by NAR, the National Association of Realtors. A lot of people are all upset, think it's going to dynamically change the overall landscape. However, I think in the long term it'll have minimal overall effects. But I put together some slides for you today to kind of give you where we are. We won't really know the exact process and forms until mid to late July when those are done. I'll keep you updated through the process, but here's an update right now. As I stated previously, there's recently been a major lawsuit settlement by NAR, the National Association of Realtors. The lawsuit itself primarily dealt with overall agent compensation and its transparency. A lot of agents feel that this will be a major disruption in the entire real estate industry in a very negative way. However, I see it as exciting changes on the real estate horizon. The key takeaway as a result of this settlement is that the buyer agent compensation will no longer be listed in the MLS. That's the primary thing. However, my commitment to transparency and top-notch service remains unwavering. As we anticipate the rollout of new rules this summer, I understand there might be concerns. Here's my promise. I will seamlessly guide you through these changes with the expertise and care you've come to expect. No need to worry, I've got you. You'll likely see a new introduction of both sellers and buyers agreements late July this year. Think of these as blueprints ensuring clarity and mutual understanding from the start of the journey to find your dream home or to sell your home for top dollar. Okay, I borrowed a few slides from the Tom Ferry Embracing Change Part 2 presentation. I'm not going to go over all these bullet points, but I've highlighted a few in red that I do want to cover. The first one is the one I've been talking about. There's no offer of buyer or broker compensation allowed in the Realtor MLS. That's the main change. The next one is you can't create a non-MLS mechanism or portal. In other words, all the realtors came together and say, okay, we're going to put together one portal where the compensation will be shown. However, each individual buyer, broker, or agent can show the buyer compensation on their own individual websites, but it's going to be tough to try to figure out where those are, at least in the initial standpoint. So just a few bullet points here on contract and disclosure changes. So first of all, the agent must disclose that fees and commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. So hopefully everybody knew that. Then the buyer broker must have the buyer sign an agreement and negotiate fees prior to showing a property from the MLS. So no longer calling an agent up, let's go look at a house. You're gonna have to sign a written agreement prior to going out. And then the other bullet point I wanted to cover is the amount of agent compensation from the buyer standpoint cannot be open-ended. It has to be a specific dollar amount or percentage. Here's my simplified look at today's process. Basically, you have a seller listing agreement with all the legalese where the seller negotiates with the listing agent for the total commissions. In that listing agreement, it lists X percent goes to the listing broker A and Y percentage goes to the buyer broker B. That buyer compensation is then posted in the MLS where the buyer agents can see what amount of compensation they receive. This process not only informs the buyer broker of the compensation for this property, but the seller listing agreement legally ties listing broker A to pay the amount of the compensation upon closing to the appropriate buyer brokerage. So that saves a ton of paperwork, which in the future we're going to have a lot more paperwork. This is just a little bit more technical overview of really the last side. So you've got the seller here. He signs a listing agreement with the listing broker, and the listing broker puts that percentage of compensation into the MLS so the buyer broker can look at the MLS and see what that is. Generally, in today's, there are not agreements between the buyer and the buyer broker. However, in the future, that's drastically going to change. They say this process is supposed to actually lower the cost of housing, but I've never seen a process that adds so much red tape, as you can see by the spaghetti diagram below, that's actually going to reduce costs. But let me just try to simplify this. So the seller and the listing broker will have an agreement that binds them like they do today. However, the buyer must now have an agreement with the buyer broker / agent, and all the compensation will be in those two individual agreements. And then when you put together the purchase contract, it will spell out what the actual compensation is, who's paying what to whom. Well, I've got a lot more comments to share, but today I think I'm just going to leave it there. But I'll keep you updated through the process. Have a great day.